back and available for you?
Yeah, hopefully both of them have trained with us today, so that's looking positive for some inclusion in the squad for Edinburgh. We won't be able to name the team until end of the week, but we're certainly getting up to fuller strength than we were. We obviously, with Steve's inclusion, he did a bit today, and Lou as well, gives us that bit of depth there in those two positions in the second row, and obviously the cover in the back line with Steve coming back in. So and John came through the game on the weekend last weekend, which was great to see. So we're starting to get back up there. We've still got a few longer term injuries, but to be fair to Simon Gardner, he stepped in there and done particularly well. So tougher challenges ahead there, but we're coping with it, and that's all we can do really. We're a bit restricted, and any side who'd lose 3 quality title props would struggle. So I think we've done pretty well, and Simon's done very, very well in that under those circumstances.
Is selection tricky with a view to next weekend? Because obviously there'd be, I suppose, a temptation to wrap a few people that can caught in the world before next.
Yeah, you want to try and get a bit of a settled team, but we have had probably problems with injuries in certain areas, which have probably contributed to the fact that we probably have to tinker with the team a little bit this week to try and get everyone available for selection next week. There could be a few players that could be involved this week, but then that might put them out of contention next week. And, we want to go up to Edinburgh and win, and we haven't done that for a long time, if at all. So we've got a huge challenge on our hands, and we've changed the way we're doing things a little bit to try and mix it up. We're flying out on the day, flying back, so we're just trying to change things because we're desperate to continue the momentum in the league. Don't want Munster to get too far ahead of us, and want to try and keep ahead of the teams below us. So that's our primary focus. Obviously Leicester's on the horizon, but we've got to play well in your domestic competition going into Europe. You can't just switch it on for Europe, even though we have done in the past. We're a cup team, but it's important that we have better consistency in the domestic competition, which will take us into Europe on a better footing, hopefully.
How do you manage Steve and Lou? Because obviously you want them to play, and you've only got a week before you have a really massive game for you. So do you manage them different, or do you have a kind of protocol in place where you manage your...
All players coming back from injury have a protocol, and that's down to the conditioners and the physios. They report to us every day on injury status. Players have a level of injury status, and as they go along throughout their rehabilitation program, they become less of a concern, and they can drip feed them back into contact and more game-related exercise. So those 2 players have been involved in that in the last couple of weeks, and hopefully come Thursday they'll take full part in training, and then hopefully they'll be involved on the weekend.
Bruce Pearson played very well for you.
He is.
Do you have a big decision in the next couple of weeks?
Well, we're in a fortunate position. It is we'd rather be in this position than not. Reece has been very good for us, but we have a player with nearly 100 caps and Lions Test under his belt, and someone who has a huge competitive edge waiting. He's sort of sat out the last few weeks, and he'll be desperate to get involved this week, and hopefully look to be involved in the week after. But we are in a fortunate position, and we've got 2 quality standoffs that we can call upon, and we're very lucky to have that. So
how has Steve handled the time off?
No, not very well. He's not a very good spectator. None of us are really. But he's been focused. He's worked hard on his injury. It's a niggly injury, and especially for a fly half in his position where he kicks the ball and that inside of the knee, it's not particularly pleasant. Kicking the ball is probably the worst thing he can do, especially the way he kicks it. So it is difficult, but he's old enough and wise enough to look after himself, I'm sure. I don't need to tell him what to do and how to manage himself. He's a team man, Steve, and at the end of the day he'll do what's best for the team.
Talk about Simon Gardner. What do you think you have there?
We have a player that stepped into a pretty difficult position. Maybe not much was expected from him from outside of the group, and certainly would only have been heard of as an under-20s player last year. And he's he's really stepped up. His conditioning is much better than it was. He understands the game a lot better, having had this season with the first team squad, and he's been thrown in the deep end a little bit. But to be fair to him, he's staying afloat. And when he came on against the Dragons, they were under the cosh a little bit in our 22. We spent 7 minutes in our own 22 and had a lot of reset scrums, and we really defended those scrums particularly well. The forwards were excellent, and a lot of that was down to the scrummaging and what Simon was doing there. So everyone's backing him, and hopefully he can continue to progress the way he's been.
It looks like on the outside you found a bit of a rough time in there, because physically he's all the right shape for a tight head.
He is, he's.
He obviously needs some work to be done there, but generally it's there.
Yeah,
he reminds me of a early Adam Jones in that regard.
Well, I mean, if you could do the sort of thing that Adam could do, then he found a very good rough time. I think he's got to work hard. He's got to manage himself away from the club, and he understands that now, I think. And it's been great to have Robin in this year, and he really understands that sort of intricacies of the front row, and really tried to develop players like Simon and Rodri Jones has had game time. He's only 18, Simon's 20, so we're really young there, and props don't tend to mature until their mid-20s, and we're very fortunate there that we've got those two, along with Phil, John and Yestin, who have played most of the games with the injuries to Pete, Deacon and Reece. So we're thin on the ground, but we're managing at the moment, so we'll just keep our fingers crossed we don't get any more injuries there, and we can slowly get the other guys back to full fitness, and that will create then a bit of competition, because Simon, when he came on the bench, as I say, he really stood out, especially in that period where we were under pressure a little bit. In our own 22, we managed to turn the tide a little bit until we missed a kick at goal, and we spent that 7 minutes in our own 22 and we didn't concede a point. So it was a big return that for the time spent in our own 22.
Is that pleasing post-loss? Because it's obviously with your defence hat on.
Yeah,
that day delivery seems to be tough.
Yeah, it was, and they weren't 60 points better than us. They were a better team on the day, and we hold our hands up. We didn't get it right, but sometimes you've got to take it on the chin, and as long as you return positively, we played Leicester, we got a bit of a hide in, and we returned and played the Blues and responded really positively. So we did the same this week. It's important that we don't have too many of those bad days, and we should learn now from probably two bad ones we've had. Hopefully we don't see that again, because it's not pleasant. A bit of soul searching in the week afterwards, and rightly so. The players and management were all extremely disappointed, and we let a lot of people down, the fans and ourselves at the end of the day. So that's gone now. We can't change that, but what we can affect is what's coming up this month, which is huge for us.
I mean, you pointed to the record at Murrayfield. I don't think you have one there since regional rugby. I mean, what would a victory there do to confidence?
It would be big. A lot of the players though going up there won't have played there either, so that kind of we haven't really talked too much about our record up there. It's been more about what we can do. We have travelled a bit better this year, and that's important that we do win away from home. Nigel mentioned today, going to someone like Edinburgh and getting a win is when you start to think about you're a top 4 team, and those are the sort of teams that they're a quality team, but they're the sort of games you need to win. We probably should have been Munster away. We lost by a point, and we had a chance at the end. Those sort of games which, if you really want to be competitive and in the mix come April, May, those are the games you need to be getting a result away from home. But it is important, this game, for lots of reasons, going into next week, but also to continue our progression in the league as well.
played a part in, a Scarlet pack that was feared around Europe.
A very, very big pack, I suppose, 7-8 years ago. But maybe we didn't play the type of rugby as, maybe we played more of a forward-oriented rugby then. Although it was a decent style rugby and we won games, maybe it was more abrasive and more forward-oriented than we have now. We have a good mix in our forwards that can all carry, can all offload, and you've got to balance it up a little bit. Sometimes you can't have everything. You can't be all things to all men, and we've got to go down this route at the moment. We can't magic players out of thin air. We've got to go with what we've got, and we're pretty happy with what we've got at the moment.
You seem really enthused about this whole thing at the moment. Like last year, it was all kind of a bit doom and gloom around here. There seems to be a feeling that things are happening. Yeah,
and we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but we're just quietly going about our business, and if people write about us, that's fine. If people don't write about us, that's fine. That's as long as we, at the end of a week or at the end of the season, for example, say to ourselves, we've done as much as we can, both individually as players and coaches and management, to get the best out of ourselves, then you can look yourself in the mirror and say, well, I'm happy with what I've done. You can't obviously do that if you don't put everything into it. And we are producing some good rugby. We also produce some frustrating moments as well. And in my position as defence coach, that can be tough to take. But you've got to accept the bad with the good. We've had more good days than bad this season, and I haven't said that for a couple of years.
How were you after the last game of the Ospreys? Did you sleep that night? Or beating players?
No. I try not to do that.
Just a silent treatment.
Yeah, that's probably my thing. A silent treatment for a couple of days, and my wife and family get the same. No, it is as a coach, you've got to change your mindset. You can't affect what's just happened, and you've got to sometimes just take a back step and look at it again. Sometimes you think the game's gone really well and it hasn't actually gone that well when you look back on it, and vice versa. When it's going really bad, you sometimes look at it and think it's the end of the world. When you look at it again, you think, well, just for a couple of things here and there, then we would have been alright. So you've got to, as a coach, you've got to take a backward step sometimes and reflect a little bit without blowing your top too early. You can do that on the Monday or Tuesday if you've reviewed. No. I have lost a little bit in the stand, if you've noticed. No, that's just that's part. I'm a competitive. I've got to maybe temper that a little bit, but it's I want this team to do well because they deserve it. They work hard. They're a good bunch of guys, and at the end of the day, it's nothing's given to those who don't work, but these guys work hard, and we really want to get something out of this season. So I'm no different to anyone else. Not long ago that I was playing, and still haven't lost that competitive edge.